There are three kinds of events at Shinkyu tournaments: karate kata, non-contact point sparring, and light continuous sparring. Divisions within these events are based on age, gender, grade, and in the case of light continuous sparring, weight. Kata. Kata is performed in an elimination format. This is done by two competitors doing their kata in a ring together. After both have completed their kata, three judges will elect which of the two competitors they felt had the strongest kata by holding up a flag on their side. If two or more judges elect that you had the strongest kata, you'll progress to the next round. In smaller divisions, or for the final two or three competitors, the format will change and katas performed individually and given a score out of 10. In spite of the numerical score, this judging system is used to place finalists. Second round, losers versus winners. As the two strongest competitors may meet in the first round, thus eliminating a competitor who could have won silver, there will be a second round consisting of winners versus losers. How this works is after the first round, the winners will be matched up with a different loser from the first round. This means that someone who lost in the first round will have another opportunity to re-enter the competition. However, it will be against someone else who has already won one round. This rule will not apply to divisions with 5 or less competitors. Kata judging criteria. As there are both judges and competitors from different styles performing different kata, there are two broad criteria that have an even weighting. The first is kame, which is defined as focus and intent and probable effectiveness of the techniques performed. The second is performance, which encompasses the difficulty of the kata, timing, rhythm, flow, sequencing, balance, and overall form. Kata must be performed in a karate gi. Non-contact point sparring. Rings are 7 meters by 7 meters. This style of sparring is based on who scores the first effective technique will score the point. This is based on the concept that in self-defense, frequently the first person to score an effective technique gains a big advantage and is more likely to go on to win. For safety reasons, competitors are expected to pull their technique short and not actually hit their partner. Even though blows are pulled short, competitors must still have displayed that they could have continued further and hit had it been real. Unlike traditional karate tournaments, students can use hooking punches, uppercuts, overhands, and most importantly, they are scored by the probable effectiveness of their technique, as opposed to finicky rules of how a technique should be pulled back, etc. This makes the event much more realistic while still maintaining high levels of safety. There is nothing more frustrating than losing points over finicky rules which bear no relevance to the real-world effectiveness of the technique. How the event works is the referee will call a halt to the bout after an encounter in which they see a technique scored. Once the bout is stopped, the referee will make a decision about the probable effectiveness of the technique. The referee will be assisted by a silent judge in the ring and an arbiter outside of the ring who will motion with their hands who they think scored. The referee will score the technique a full or a half point. It's important to understand that referees must gain a majority decision between themselves, the silent judge, and the arbiter before scoring a point. This rule of 3 makes it much fairer than other tournaments where the referee can make the final choice without requiring consensus. Point scoring. Each bout lasts for 2 minutes or until one competitor scores 3 full points. Single techniques that have a high probable effectiveness, had it been real, will score half a point. In order to score a full point, a competitor must show their technique or techniques would have most likely incapacitated their opponent or put them in a position where they would be highly unlikely to recover. Typically, full points are scored for singular blows that would have most likely incapacitated their opponent had it been real. This will be judged on timing, power, and whether the opponent could have defended the target area. Sweeps or takedowns followed by highly effective techniques. or multiple scoring combinations that dominated the opponent. In general, referees will let an encounter continue for a couple of seconds after a technique is scored. This will allow them to see how the encounter plays out while giving them time to observe the other judge's decisions. For competitors, this teaches them to still defend themselves after they've been struck first, and when they're attacking, to have a follow-up or exit strategy. This also means competitors can clinch and grapple, however referees will usually stop this if it doesn't look like anyone will score within 3 to 5 seconds. Note that a competitor may have struck first, but if their technique doesn't look like it would have been effective in reality, it will not score, but their opponent's subsequent techniques might. In beginner divisions, especially in the case of children, scoring criteria may be looser. Advanced divisions must display a strong degree of probable effectiveness to score. Legal techniques. All techniques except for takedowns and sweeps are to be above the belt. Round and hook kicks only to the head. Side, back and front kicks must be between the belt and mid-chest height. Crescent and axe kicks are prohibited. The full range of punches are allowed, including hooks, uppercuts and overhands, but they must be very well controlled. Back fists are permitted, but not spinning back fists. Competitors can clinch and grapple. Sweeping and throwing is only permitted in an intermediate and above divisions. As such, intermediate and above students need to be well versed in break falling. Safety equipment. Mouth guards, mitts, pads and groin guards for males and chest guards for females are all compulsory. All equipment must be Shinkyu approved. However, spare mitts and pads will be available on the day if your equipment is not approved. Like continuous sparring, rings are 7 meters by 7 meters. This format is for those 14 years and above only. As the name suggests, the action in this event is continuous. Control is carefully monitored and participants wear full face headgear in order to maintain safety. Grappling is allowed, and if the fight goes to the ground, competitors have 5 seconds of ground fighting in which to score strikes, maintain a dominant position, or achieve a hold, which in reality may have led to a submission. Like continuous is scored over 2 2-minute rounds. If a competitor wins both rounds, they win the match overall. However, if each competitor has won one of the first 2 rounds, the match will go on to a third round. Bouts are scored by 3 judges, and a referee inside the ring will oversee the fight. There are 3 ways of scoring points in light continuous. Number 1, strikes and kicks. Striking techniques are scored on the basis of probable effectiveness. That is, the judges need to see that a technique would have had the potential to stun or significantly impede an opponent's ability to continue in the short or long term. Therefore, techniques like pouring punches, rabbit punches, or shallow blows with the arm fully extended are unlikely to score. A single significant strike scores 1 point, including unchecked thigh kicks. Multiple scoring combinations where the opponent goes on to escape or recover will score 2 points. Dominating an opponent through multiple scoring techniques until the opponent would have either taken too many hits to recover or in reality simply is not in a position where they are likely to recover will score 5 points. The second way of scoring points in light continuous is via ground fighting. Note that taking an opponent down does not in and of itself score points, only what happens afterwards. This means an opponent who is taken down can still win the encounter and score points. Dominant position. If both competitors are on the floor and one finishes the 5 seconds in a dominant position, they score 3 points. Note that full guard is considered to be a neutral position. Submission holds. If a competitor maintains a submission hold either via joint lock or choke, they score 5 points. It's very important to understand submission should not be applied, and unnecessary pressure beyond what's necessary to maintain the hold position may result in excessive contact penalties. Note that this may also be in a standing position or in ground fighting. Standing positions must be held for 5 seconds. Ground and pound. If both competitors are on the floor and one scores multiple scoring blows or a single very significant strike, they score 5 points. Striking a prone opponent. Striking a prone opponent to the head or a very significant body blow will score 5 points. This is regardless of how they fell to the prone position. Bouts do not stop if you accidentally fall. The third way of scoring points in light continuous is driving your opponent out of the ring. Pushing an opponent out of the ring as a result of grappling or pushing will be awarded 3 points. Driving an opponent out of the ring as a result of strikes or kicks will be awarded 5 points. Note that voluntarily stepping out of the ring will attract a 3-point penalty, as this shows a lack of awareness. Control. Control is a major element of this style of competition sparring. The general rule of thumb is if you can't perform a technique with reliably high levels of safety for your opponent, you should not attempt it. Techniques that swing past the target are a clear indicator of lack of control. Light contact is permitted to the body and the inside and outside of the thighs. Pushing or thrusting element can also be employed to the body. Head punches and kicks must be touch or tap control. Referees will be forgiving of the occasional tap, but single blows that throw your opponent's head back or repeated blows harder than a tap will be heavily penalised or result in disqualification. Sweeps, throws and takedowns involving putting pressure on limbs must be done with sufficient caution so as not to cause injuries. Legal techniques. There's a much wider range of techniques available in light continuous. Round kicks to the thigh and sweeps and takedowns are the only techniques permitted below the belt. All kicks can be performed to the head, but kicking or striking to the front of the neck is strictly prohibited, as are blows to the base of the skull. Knees are permitted, but not elbows. The full range of punches are allowed, including hook punches, uppercuts, and overhands. Back fists and spinning back fists are permitted, although spinning back fists must be sighted and, of course, well controlled. There is no time limit to clinching or grappling. Obviously, dangerous throws such as spiking opponents on their head, jumping scissor takedowns are forbidden. Eating punches. Also note that a competitor can't score blows or takedowns or drive an opponent out the ring immediately after taking a hit. That would be cheating our system of control while also developing unrealistic tactics. Basically, you can't pretend you're Superman. They can score counterattacks only if the counter looked like it was already in motion at the time of being hit, and the hit didn't look like it would have hit in a way that would have prevented the counter strike had it have been real. Safety equipment. Competitors must wear 6 to 8 ounce grappling gloves. MMA gloves or karate mitts are not permitted. Shin and instep protectors, full face headgear, mouth guards, groin guards for boys, and chest guards for ladies are all compulsory. All equipment must be Shinkyu approved. Spare grappling gloves and headgear will be available on the day to borrow, or you can purchase them as well at the venue.